Yo, what's going on, you guys? And welcome back to another episode of Push the Tempo podcast. I'm your boy Aray, and I'm with my guy Kyle. And today we're going to be talking about the Christmas Day games. We had maybe five or six games that they play every single year on Christmas Day, and this was a great Christmas Day. We had a bunch of close games for the most part. Some of them did run away at the end, but for the most part, they were really good matchups, and I wouldn't have wanted any other way. So let's get started with this. Which matchup do you want to talk about first?
Um, I guess let's start off with your Celtics. They beat the Bucks like pretty handily. Like the Bucks just, they were without Middleton, but they just kind of struggled all game. Particularly in my opinion, to defend the Celtics in transition. It felt like every time the Celtics got out on the break, they just fried Milwaukee. Jason Tatum had a really good game, especially in the third quarter, I think. Like he really did the majority of his damage there. Jaylen Brown started off really well, kind of went cold, and then in the fourth quarter, not saying like this it was a close game, but like there was a chance the Bucks could come back, and I think he hit like two threes. He had like 10 points in a row, and that kind of closed the door on the Bucks in that game. Giannis was not himself. I think the Celtics defend Giannis as well as anybody in the NBA now. Um, and obviously, Drew Holiday was solid. Just not having Middleton, it gets really difficult for them to, to score because they don't have much shot creation, like perimeter shot creation, I should say. But I want to hear your opinion.
Yeah, from start to finish, the Celtics really played with what seemed like just an unlimited amount of offense. Like they were just hitting shots, they weren't missing. Like the clip and efficiency that they were shooting at was insane. We didn't really get any bad looks from the Celtics for the most part. A lot of these were either wide open looks or tough shots that just ended up going in, which is just insane. I don't know if this was a one-off. I want to see them play the Bucks again, but they were so dominant in terms of making their shots in transition, like you said, and just in general, like finding wide open players to hit open shots. And it, like at first, I think the first quarter they had 8 threes, which was just insane. They were just unleashing hell from three. And at one point during the first quarter, I even googled what was the most threes in a quarter, and it was 11. And I think they ended up with 8, but yeah, it just felt like they were insane.
Yeah, this
So
looked like the Celtics that we saw to start the year. That I'm not, I don't double check, but I'm not sure if they are the number one offense anymore in the NBA. Let me double check real quick. They are still the number one offense.
hey,
Um,
let's go.
But like, this month they've kind of tapered off a bit. They've been not great offensively. This looks like this was the game the Celtics look like that level of offense. 19 of 39 from three, like hitting 19 threes. If you hitting 19 threes, it's very hard to beat a team when they hit 19 threes. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, that's just, the Bucks, they desperately need Middleton, but it's also like Middleton hasn't really been that good this year. Like he's had moments, but overall, and I get it, he's coming back from an injury, but they need him to be like at his best to have a chance, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll be honest about this Bucks team. I don't know if it's because this year Giannis's efficiency has been falling off. Sure, he's having more points than ever, but at the same time, his statistics are starting to fall off in terms of field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and the types of shots he was taking, at least in this game, weren't really the best shots. Like he's like we know that if he runs into you, kind of barrels into you, and then goes for that easy layup, that's his shot. But in this game, he took a ton of mid ranges. He took 5 3-pointers and only hit one, which is aligned with his percentage for this season. Like he's shooting 25% from three. He should not be taking 5 3-pointers, right? So in that sense, I don't know if this is what this Milwaukee Bucks team is nowadays, but it just doesn't feel like this team is what it was when they won the championship, even though they still have the same core players.
It's also that like you're saying Giannis like shooting five threes. Obviously, he's not a 3-point shooter. I was reading in an article somewhere that even like his mid-range shot, like he's shooting career not career lows, but substantially compared to like previous years, he's shooting lower on even those shots. Um, but I think that's kind of the Celtics defense. Like the Celtics, like I said, I think they defend him as well as any team has since like the 2019 Toronto Raptors, where they just all like you have five guys with their attention on him when he has the ball. And like obviously Al Horford and Robert Williams are going to get like, the main, I guess, attention for their defense. But like even Derek White, like Derek White is not like a super physical imposing defender compared to Giannis, obviously. But like he's a very smart defender. There was a couple plays. There was a play in particular where like Giannis drove and Derek White, he didn't necessarily force a jump ball because he didn't grab it, but like he altered Giannis's drive attempt by getting his hand on the ball enough where Giannis had to force like an awkward shot and he missed. Like these are just smart, capable defenders that just, they hold their own, which is one reason that I'm pretty high on the Celtics this year.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because it's like 1 through 5, and even when the bench comes out, their 1 through 5 can defend for the most part. I mean, you have all these different types of players that can defend pretty much any player, it seems like. Like when you have to go from Smart to White, they're very capable guards for even defending bigger men, like defensive player of the year and all. But then they also got long wings in Tatum, Brown, and then you got the big men, Horford, you got a rim protector in Rob Williams, and then you got Grant Williams, who's like a big body. You can't push him off. And they even talked about it in the broadcast. They were like, the difference between like Grant Williams and Horford is, Grant Williams has that body where he can stay with you, but he's not as long as that Horford. So the Celtics have that option ability where they can just kind of switch between these players to kind of figure out which will bother any other superstar in the league. That's what makes the Celtics team unique, and that's what really gave them the run last year. But this year, they've been making their money on offense. But yeah, this matchup is just, this game on Christmas Day, it had a lot to do with their offense more than their defense. But either way, like, Giannis was getting hard shots, and I didn't see him go for too many layups this game. So it could have been attributed to, the Celtics defense.
So it's also like you're mentioning, the Celtics have really they've done the heavy lifting on the offensive end. Their defense will come. Right now they are. Let me just double check this number real quick. They're the seventh best defense in the NBA. So it's not like they're just slouching. And that defensive rating to me is only going to rise because Robert Williams just got back. Like and he was I thought he was a little rough today. He didn't play a ton, but Milwaukee's just like a weird matchup for him in my opinion. But I wanted to ask you, how is like the reintegration of Robert Williams been for the Celtics so far this season in the games he's played?
It's weird because the Celtics prior to him coming back, they were doing a lot of, everyone can shoot, a lot of 5 out offense, you know what I mean? But now, like they can't necessarily go to that. They kind of have Rob Williams in the dunker spot. Sometimes they have him at the top of the key, just kind of waiting there. So it seems like it's a little bit awkward, but at the same time, it generates a lot more like offense in terms of like different looks. So like we got Rob Williams setting screens, but then you've got Marcus Smart throwing him lobs, which they didn't really have present with Al Horford or Grant Williams. But now they have that with Rob Williams. So and on top of that, he's getting a ton of offensive rebounds. Even if they're not like clean catch rebounds, he's doing a lot of tipping out to open shooters and that type of stuff. So it generates a lot of different looks on the offensive end. And of course, we know how he is on the defensive end. So overall, he might be a little bit jumpy and antsy to get back out there, but I still think that he's going to be valuable and, he's going to be a plus positive for this team.
That's like what you just said about the 5 out offense thing. That is exactly like what I've thought about the Celtics and why, there was a little bit of a rough stretch in there because you're right. Like without him on the court, like the Celtics just had an entire rotation of guys who can space the floor. Like, Blake not can't do it, but he's not really playing much. But even like Luke Cornett, Robert Williams is obviously a lot better than Luke Cornett, but Luke Cornett can shoot. That's something that, you know, um, that Robert Williams just can't. And Horford can shoot. So now it's going to be, but Rob Williams, like he provides a lob threat, you know, that really no other big man provides, while also being, a good defender, right? So, like Horford's a good defender, but he's like pretty old. He can't really do that as much. But Rob Williams does in a way that, like, uh, I don't know if like any other player brings that kind of dimension. So yeah, the offense might not be as devastating, but the defense is going to get better. And you also add, a dimension on your offense with like a lob threat, which I think will help the Celtics in the long run.
No, exactly, exactly. I mean, like this is one scary team to face. I watch the Celtics pretty much every single game, so maybe I don't realize it as much. But having Rob back is just it just unlocks so much more. Like I know, I keep reiterating it in it, but like you know what you showed me that one graphic where it showed that Marcus Smart was number one in the league in terms of pick and roll possessions, right?
He's been really good. Like the thing with Marcus Smart has always been when he tries to do a little bit too much on offense, like in terms of shooting. Um, like there, you can. I know you're a huge Marcus Smart fan, but you can also admit sometimes he takes away shots that he takes some dumb shots he just shouldn't. But this year, like he's done a really good job, in my opinion, of playing within himself and being a facilitator first rather than a score first guy. He had like this assist. I think it was to Jason Tatum in the fast break, which the Celtics dominated in my opinion all night. Like he had this assist to Tatum, like a bounce pass, like look ahead to Tatum that like just got him a layup, and it was really impressive to see. In this game, 8 assists, only one turnover. Like these are the kind of games you like to see from Marcus Smart.
Right, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like in the last game that he played against the Timberwolves, he had 10 assists with zero turnovers, and it's like a lot of these like looks like the Celtics are like trying to go for are these weird kind of threes. Like I hate when a team will go specifically for threes when they can get like an easy layup or whatever. And the Celtics have been shooting. I think they're number one in shooting 3 points, like attempting 3 pointers. But what Smart unlocks is like he gets a ton of easy looks. Like you talked about that bounce pass that they had in transition to Tatum. Against the Timberwolves, he had three insane assists back to back to back, and they were all to either Tatum or Brown. Same exact thing, assists on the in transition. So like I feel like that just unlocks something else. Like in this game, he shot zero 3 pointers. I know it's crazy to say, but Marcus Smart is kind of leading the offense in a different way. You know what I mean? Like he's being efficient, and I think that really does unlock this team. Like, but anyways, I don't want to rant too much on Marcus Smart because you know how I get with Marcus Smart.
Yeah,
Um,
once you start, you don't stop. So I guess
exactly.
from there, then we should probably move on to another game. I guess the next game I kind of wanted to talk about was the Warriors and Memphis game. This was um this was an interesting game, man. Like this was if there was any game tonight that I thought would have been a blowout, it was this game. Like going into it, the Warriors don't have Steph, they don't have Wiggins. And the Warriors have been kind of rough since they lost Steph. They got beat by 40 by the Nets. They got beat by like 30 by the Knicks. Like they haven't been playing that well. And then they came in and they punched the Grizzlies in the mouth. And the Grizzlies, the funniest thing to me about this game, like watching, like there was like 7 minutes after the fourth, I was like, it's only a 15 point game. Like 15 points is not like an insurmountable lead in the NBA, right? And the Grizzlies just never cut it below like 12 or 9. Every time they, made a small run, the Warriors would respond. And the Grizzlies they just didn't have enough, in my opinion. Whether it be just dumb turnovers, dumb decision making, like on offense, taking stupid shots, they just weren't able to find it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't have the chance to watch the full game. I watched a little bit of the box score during the game. It's Christmas, I had family over, whatever. But I did tune in a little bit towards the second quarter, third quarter, and the fourth quarter. And one thing that I noticed is, Desmond Bain, as great as he is, he wasn't really at that level that, we expected from Desmond Bain, which is fine because, he's just coming back on injury. But I get why that they were down by, 14, 15. They weren't really hitting shots. Ja went 2 for 10 from three. Brooks went for 6 from three, and Bain went 0 for 7 from three. I think if these two teams played again, we'd get a completely different result. But yeah, nonetheless, it was a good win by the Warriors, especially without Steph and Wiggins. But one thing I liked about this game was like the chippiness. Did you notice all those texts that were flying out there? And you
Yeah, I
know,
mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the text. I think Jordan Poole got tossed for like just this is stupid technical fouls. And it continued. I think it continued even in the Suns game. I could be mistaken, but this game, I think the refs were just doing a bit too much. Um, one thing that stood out to me from Memphis's side is Jaren Jackson Jr. He's been really good since he came back. Like on defense, he's been like a legitimate DPOY candidate. Um, but man, the foul trouble is just is limiting him. It's like the one thing that like he struggles with now at this point. It's just he's not like if he can't stay out of foul trouble, like the Grizzlies are just a mediocre defense without him. Um, there was a play today where like he switched onto Jordan Poole and he held his own to the point where Poole passed to DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo hit the three, but it was really good defense by Jaren Jackson to stay in front of Poole, to force him to pass. Like and like he couldn't abuse the switch. But like for every one of those like brilliant defensive plays that he makes, or just moments where he's really good on moving on the perimeter, he has a bunch of just dumb fouls, like reaching in 30 feet from the basket, getting really jumpy and committing stupid fouls. Um, I I I really like the Grizzlies. I think he needs to just curb some of this foul trouble. He needs to find a way to play through it, or just not do it at all. Like because it's gonna hold him back if he continues like to foul this much.
Well, you know what the unfortunate part about the whole thing is? This is actually his best year in terms of getting personal fouls. He averages 3.7 personal fouls per game, like throughout his career. This season, he's only averaging three, and at his peak, it was actually 4.1 fouls per game, which is a shit ton. You know what I mean? Like that's not good, especially when you have such an impactful player like Jaren Jackson Jr. This is something that you don't want to see out of one of your younger guys. And you think by now, he's what is he in his fifth season? You'd think
I
by
think
now
I
that
think this is year five.
yeah, you think by year five you'd be a little bit better in terms of staying away from these tiki taka fouls where like these reach in fouls, these even goaltends like I see him a lot do a ton of these goaltends where it's like it's almost seems like he's chasing blocks at you know what I mean? Like we know that he has the ability to get these blocks, but it feels like he's kind of chasing it. But yeah, you'd think by now he'd be able to develop a little bit of a resistance, like you know what I mean, like a resistance to kind of jumping off, fouling, reaching, and all that. But if he can ever figure that out, then I think that would definitely help out the Grizzlies team. But it might just be who he is as a player as of now.
No, for sure. And from the Warriors side, Draymond only scored 3 points, but we know he's not a scorer. Like that's probably the most impactful 3 points we'll ever see because he did everything else. He was great defensively. He pushed the pace, got open shots, like with the normal Draymond stuff. Great passer, great defender. Ty Jerome also played really well, and I remember watching the Warriors like beginning of the season. I was like, who's that guy? And Ty Jerome, he played really well today. Um, obviously Poole was really good before he got ejected. Clay shot a lot, wasn't very efficient, but like this is kind of what you're gonna get with him at
Okay,
this point in his
can we
career.
talk about Clay a little bit?
Yeah, sure. What do you wanna talk about?
All right. So if you guys haven't seen it by now on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, you know, Clay had that one play where he hit that mid range over Brooks, and then Brooks was on the ground and he kind of was taunting over him. Man, what do you think about that as like an NBA fan? Like, do you like the chippiness? Do you like the back and
I mean,
forth or
so I think a lot of that like came from like John Morant saying that, oh, I'm cool with the West, like I'm not really worried about any team in the Western Conference. And Dylan Brooks said, you know, Steph being out on Christmas is not ideal, but I like the Klay Thompson matchup. I prefer guys like speaking their mind because like man, how many times have we seen like players get asked questions by reporters, and it's the same like recycled, oh, we got to be better, we're gonna continue to work together, be better as a team kind of answers. You know what I mean? Like I much
right?
prefer guys to speak their mind, and because also like it brings rivalries. Like there's not many like rivalries left in the NBA, right? Like obviously there's Lakers Celtics, which is like a historic rivalry, but like they only play twice a year, and these are big games. They don't play much, and they haven't played in the finals since like 2010, right? Yeah. So like it's weird. It's weird. I prefer it like not because of the drama. I don't really care for that, but like this high intensity basketball. I really enjoy that, which this game was for the most part. It was pretty intense.
That's a fair point. I know exactly what you mean. Like the last time I can think of a rivalry between a couple of teams where um the Wizards and Celtics a couple of years ago where the Celtics dressed up in all black. I thought that was pretty cool, but it died down. Like that's not there anymore. But now the Suns and Pelicans are starting to become a little bit of a rivalry, and then now we've got the Warriors and the Grizzlies, and this is what I want to see out of the NBA. It makes it so much more fun to watch. Like these matchups are so much more fun. So I don't know if this will carry forward, but it's definitely fun. It's making the NBA a lot more fun to watch.
I think last point on the Grizzlies, I guess before we move on, is that Ja is obviously very very good. Like 10 threes is a ton of shots from three for him. I don't know about that. Um, but Desmond Bane is a guy who I'm watching pretty closely. I think he's a really really good player. Like he was pretty good in the playoffs last year. I still don't know if he's a second option, um, like a bona fide second option to me. To me, he's like a elite third option. I don't know if he's that second guy yet, and that remains to be seen. But he's somebody I'm watching very closely. I think he can be. I think he's a really really good player, but we have to see. It's still the jury is still out on that.
That's a fair point. We'll have to see. It's like he started off super hot, but now that he's coming back for injury, he has not been super hot. So, we gotta see a little bit more as the season goes on, especially when they get to playoff time. We'll see how he is. So I guess we'll find out then. Anyways, let's talk about the next matchup. I know you didn't really watch this game. I tuned in the second half, and it was the Lakers and the Mavs. So, just looking at the box score, did you see anything that stood out?
Um, I watched a bit of this game. One thing that stood out to me, man, is just the way that the Lakers were defending Luka at one point. I think they gave up like 51 or 52 points in the third quarter. And this is just like a pet peeve I have in general about the way some teams defend these guys. Like the two guys to me that are like perfect examples are Luka and Jokic, who I don't understand why teams double and trap them. Because it's not like you're doubling and trapping Trae Young, who's like 6 feet tall. Luka's like a good 6'7", 6'8". Jokic is a 7 footer. These guys can see over the doubles and the traps, so they can make these passes. So I've never understood why teams double and trap these guys when they're just gonna pick them apart with the passing. And that's what Luka did. Like he got doubled, he got trapped. Oh, okay, let me just pass. Another pass, three, three, three. It happened like the entire game, and it's crazy to me. The Clippers do this, and it drives me fucking crazy that they do this, and we just saw it again today. Um, you know, the Lakers at one point were like in charge of this game. They had the lead, but we know they're not very good. Like we know that like LeBron is obviously still LeBron. They don't have Anthony Davis. They don't really have any playable big like good NBA level playable big men who can defend. Thomas Bryant is a good offensive player. He's a terrible defender. Like this was honestly of all the games I get LeBron and Luka. This was the game like I was probably least looking forward to of all the games today. Um, or I guess yesterday. But yeah, that's kind of all I had on that.
I mean, you read my mind. This is exactly what I was going to talk about. Like that third quarter with the Mavs scored 51 points. It was basically generated off of trying to double Luca. And I know Luca had 9 assists, and like watching that game, only 9 assists would be a proper way to kind of break that down because if this was hockey and you'd count those hockey assists where basically you pass to a player and then they pass to another player and then they get make the shot, that would count as a hockey assist. Luca would probably have over 20 of those in total because a ton of his points were getting doubled, passing it to like Dinwiddie, and then Dinwiddie kicking it out to like Tim Hardaway or Bertans or even like Christian Wood or Reggie Bullock. Like that's basically what this whole game was. It was just kick out, three, double team, kick out, three. And it was just a repeating thing. And you'd think that they'd try to switch it up and not try to double team. But I guess when you have a player like Luca, you kind of have to think of something if you can't guard him one on one. Like as much as I love Beverly, he was getting cooked by Luca, which you can't really say anything like detrimental to Beverly, but because Luca is just that great, but it just Luca was just unstoppable. Like he's like that player that you have to figure out how to stop him because there's really no way to stop him because he can make those passes. So I guess you kind of read my mind. On the other side of things, the Lakers, they just didn't have a great defense, and on the offensive end, they're gonna kill LeBron, man. Like he's just taking every single shot because he has to. Other than him, there's nobody else to score. Like Austin Reeves was, I think, their second leading scorer. No, it was Westbrook. Then it was Austin Reeves. Other than that, none of the starters had more than 10 points. So when you get games like that, especially with ADs out, the Lakers are screwed, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think you also have to add in that like there was a stretch there where like we know the Lakers don't have like a ton of forwards. Um, like they obviously have LeBron. Anthony Davis is injured. He's been playing center this year. They've been playing a ton of like three guard lineups. Uh, the Beverly Dennis Schroeder lineups have been particularly bad. Like they just have not found a way because both of them are not great shooters. Uh, it's just it's weird. Uh, so that it's weird. There was a moment in this game they played five guards on the floor. I don't remember who the five guards were, but it went about as well as you think it would. And this is not like the Mavericks were playing small. The Mavericks had Christian Wood on the court, and like they just that stuff like that. I don't get it. It just doesn't work. It's like not even something that you'd be like, oh, let me try this out, see if it works. Like you don't need to try that out to know whether or not it's going to work. You know, that's really all I had from this game. It's kind of the result I expected. I mean, the Mavericks aren't very good outside of Luca,
Mhm.
but the Lakers, we all know the Lakers aren't good. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Before we move on to the next matchup, I was just looking at the box score and I'm looking at the plus minuses. And I know that doesn't really indicate a whole lot, but the Westbrook minutes in particular, he was a minus 30, and the next lowest was a minus 15. So that's just one thing to point out. And that's just insane. Anyways, let's talk about the last and final matchup. And we're gonna skip over the Sixers and Knicks just because I don't think either one of us would really watch that game. So let's talk about the Suns and Nuggets, which was the last game of the day. Man, that game
or
went into
before
OT.
before
Yeah, yeah,
before we talk about that, I just have like two things to say about the Sixers real quick. They've been playing
sure.
really well as of late. I'm a big D'Anthony Melton fan. He might be the best signing of the offseason or trade acquisition, whatnot. Like he has been crazy good for them this year. Like with Maxi out, like he can shoot. He's a great defender. He's very good at getting steals. He's a good rebounder, great rebounder for a guard. Like he's the kind of guard that really every team should have. Like if they're trying to compete for a championship, maybe not play like 35 minutes a game, but he's is a very helpful player. And something else that stood out to me, like even watching, Sixers Clippers, is George Niang has been playing pretty solid as of late for the Sixers, and he's actually been playing better than PJ Tucker because, PJ's like what 37, 38. He's a little over the hill in my opinion at this moment. And like he's still a whatever defender, but he's kind of old. Like not old. He's a zero on offense now. Like the corner three is not what it used to be. Like in Miami, they were using him a bit as like a guy who could attack a closeout and like have like a little floater or whatnot. Like that's gone. So I don't know like how good like a PJ Tucker. I don't know about this experiment. I think their best lineup might be like three guards, Harden, Maxey, Melton, and like Tobias Harris and Embiid when it matters. Because I don't know with Embiid like being a post-centric player, doing a lot of his damage in the paint. I don't know if you could survive having PJ on the floor for like extended minutes when it matters. That's really all I had.
No, that's definitely a fair point. I mean, when they made that trade, I was like, damn, the Grizzlies just got ripped off. I mean, dude, Melton was a great player. He's like they lost the Sixers lost Danny Green, but Melton is a far better version of Danny Green. He's younger.
It's
He's a
also
way better.
Danny Green's likely not going to play this year. He's old. He just
Exactly.
tore his ACL. Like
Right.
he's
Right. Right. Exactly,
and
man.
like they gave up the 23rd pick, which D'Anthony Melton is better than the 23rd pick right now, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry for that kind of
No, you're
tangent.
good. You're good. All right, let's hop into the final last game, which is the Suns and the Nuggets, where the Nuggets won in OT by 3 points. And to summarize this game, Booker went out in the first 4 minutes, with a was it a hamstring injury?
I think it was a groin injury.
Groin injury. Yep, that's right. And then, Jokic was doing Jokic stuff, MVP crazy numbers, which nowadays we're kind of used to that. And then that Aaron Gordon dunk, which was just a sick dunk. So I'll let you take over because you watched this game more than I did. So go ahead.
You know what? You know what that Aaron Gordon dunk reminded me of before I like start talking about the game. You know
Yeah.
that Kobe dunk over Steve Nash. Have
Mm.
you know the one, right?
Hmm.
It looks pretty similar to that. Yeah, but This wasn't a must-win game for Denver by any means because it's a regular season game in December. Like, doesn't really matter that much. But it would have been a bit disappointing if they didn't win, given, Booker only played 4 minutes before having to exit the game. And, groin, hamstring, like these things can be tricky. Like these things, like you don't want to push through those kind of injuries because you could make it worse. So I understand them holding Booker out or having him not return to the game. Um, I think like for the Suns, man, one thing that stood out to me is the play of Landry Shamet. It's not just that he scored 30 points or something. I think he had 30, 31 points, but it's like how much dribble penetration he gets. Like it's kind of a sneaky thing that people don't talk about with him. Like he's a sneaky good like rim pressure guy. And like he and I think it was even like what's his name? Josh Okogie a little bit were getting rim pressure against the Denver Nuggets and like putting him in rotation. It was like really interesting to see. And Shamit putting up 17 threes, like having the most shots in the team. I get you have to have your offense come from somewhere, but like that was surprising. If Booker went out, um, like if we had known Booker wouldn't have played, like you would not expect Landry Shamit to be the guy to lead the team in shot attempts, right?
No, no. I mean, I woke up, I looked at the game, the score, and I was like, what the freak? Shattered with 31. What the hell happened? Like, I know Booker went out, but like, dude, what? That's just insane.
And like also like for the Nuggets, like this is one reason. Like I'm not trying to base it off just this game, right? But it's just like I don't know how good they are defensively. Like Jokic is a smart positional defender, but like he's really bad in space. Like he can't move. Aaron Gordon is having a really, really good year, and like Aaron Gordon has been very good this year. He's been like a sub all-star level player, but there's only so much he can do defensively. There's only so much ground he can cover. Kentavious Caldwell Pope is a good defender. Bruce Brown is a good defender. Those are like the only good defenders on their team who can't be attacked one way or another. Jamal Murray is still an undersized guard. He was good defensively before the injury, but like he has been very up and down since the injury. Like Michael Porter Jr. is a cone. Um,
Cone.
Bones Highland is so bad defensively, man. Like he's terrible. Christian Christian Brown, like are you trusting a rookie? And like the rest of their guys on their team, like do you trust Zeke Naji? Do you trust Vlatko Konchar? Like there's multiple guys who just didn't play, right? Like I don't know. I still have my concerns about the Nuggets defense. But that's just me.
So you know what the crazy part is? So even though like the Nuggets defense isn't as great as we'd like it to be, I still kind of am in the same kind of boat as John Morant, where I'm not too worried about the West. Like I don't think the West is that good this year. Like if you had to say, do you think that the Nuggets can actually make it to the West Conference Finals or even the finals per se? I think they could.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they could make the Western Conference Finals. Like, like I could see them beating any team, and I wouldn't be surprised. I could see them losing to most teams and not be surprised,
Right,
right?
me too.
Right. And their defense is 24th. I think I just looked it up. Like they have the 24th ranked defense. They have the second ranked offense. So like, it's not like they're a bad defense, but they're also like a great offense. So I think their pathway strategy would be we're just gonna outscore you. And at some point, like the Lakers, not the Lakers. I'm sorry, the role players. I don't know. I was reading something. The role players will stop hitting shots. Like this happens, and you have to brace yourself for it. Like guys go cold in the playoffs when it matters. Like you can only really rely and expect your star players to always be great in the playoffs, right? I don't know if you can rely on your role players at all times, and that would be my concern for the Nuggets. If is can their defense hold up when they stop hitting shots?
You know what's crazy about that? So I was actually just going through the box score the other night because I saw the Aaron Gordon dunk and I was like, damn. So I kind of went to look at how Aaron Gordon was doing this year. I kind of forgot about him, to be completely honest. And I just realized like
He's been great. He's been great.
dude, he's been shooting 61% from the floor. That's insane. Like, and he
It's like a
does
it's
take
like a center. It's like center level efficiency.
Right. I don't know if this is because of the way Jokic is kind of constructing the offense, and he's just been that good for his teammates, or if it just speaks to volumes of how good Aaron Gordon is. I don't know. Dude, 61%, that's actually insane. You know what I mean? For a forward. I think that I mean, if what you're saying is right about, role players kind of starting to fall off in playoffs, then I think that the Nuggets will be in somewhat of a little bit of trouble because that number itself seems unsustainable, especially because he it's not only taking layups and doing center type of offense, he's actually taking threes as well, like 39% from three. So
And
and
another, sorry to cut you off. Another thing, like just concern I have with the Nuggets, um, like I think Jokic is an elite level player, one of the best players in the NBA. Is Do they have a reliable second option? Like I know people love Jamal Murray. I'm not sold at him as a second option. Like he was he had some really great moments in the bubble, but like he kind of struggled for the most part in the Clippers series. He had a really good game seven, obviously, and they won that series. We're not gonna relitigate that. Um, but he kind of struggled a lot too. Paul George defended him really well until game seven of that series. Um, he really cooked Gobert in drop coverage in the Jazz series. Um, and he's lost these last 2 years in the playoffs due to injury to show us if he's that guy. You know what I mean? Like, and we haven't seen it, so I don't like consistently a consistent second option. I don't know if we've seen that. And when I say second option, I don't just mean a guy who can hit shots. I mean like a secondary creator, like a guy who can create shots off the dribble consistently against like great defenses in the playoffs. Because Porter Jr. is not a shot creator. He's a stiff. He really can't move much anymore. He's an elite catch and shoot 3-point shooter, and opportunistic cutter, attacks the glass, but he's not really a shot creator in my opinion. Is Jamal Murray that guy? That's another question I have. Is can he be that guy at the highest level?
you know what? I can actually kind of agree with you on that. I don't think that Jamal Murray is the best player to play alongside Jokic. Like I don't think like maybe Jamal Murray can be a second option and maybe even a first option if he were to ever reach his peak and be fully healthy. But with Jokic, I don't think he can be that. And that's just me personally speaking, because just watching the way that he plays, like it seems like he'll go off on a per matchup basis. You know what I mean? Like it depends on his matchup. And I don't really think that that will be sustainable unless like the Nuggets just end up in a favorable matchup for him every single time. Like we know that Jokic is going to perform every single time for the most part, but with Murray, he's just inconsistent, and I don't know, man. You don't want to have an inconsistent player be your second option. I've seen it a lot, and it just never ends up
And
working out.
and also, like I just mentioned, he lost the last 2 years due to injury, like the last two playoffs to show us he's that guy, and that's unfortunate that that happened. But that's just kind of the situation we're in, right? Like that's kind of where we're at with that. So that's really all I had on that.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a question mark. A lot of these things we'll find out during the playoffs this year, or at least later in the regular season. But it remains to be seen what's going to happen to him, the Nuggets, and a lot of these other teams. But anyways, I think that's going to be it for this pod. Thank you guys for listening. Just want to quickly shout out our sponsor, Ghost Trigger. If you guys suck ass at gaming, make sure you guys check out ghosttrigger.com. They'll help you out with FPS shooter games and some other games as well, like Fortnite. It helps you kind of build faster or shoot faster. There's a whole demo. You guys can check them out on TikTok or whatever. They sponsor us. So because of our relationship, they give us a 15% discount code. So use code ECB15 for 15% off. Once again, thank you guys for listening. And thank you, Ghost Trigger, for sponsoring this episode of Push the Tempo podcast. And that's going to be it for this pod. Catch you guys in another episode. Peace.